Hello, it's Marika Lake here. I live on the west coast of Australia with my hubby Greg, and we homeschool our 4 kiddos. I have Will who's in grade 8, Em is in grade 4, Cruz is in grade 2, and little Jackson is in pre-primary. And here in the Lake House Homeschool, we have been homeschooling for 4 years now. I have another video for you today, which is a part of the Homeschool 101 series, and I'm going to talk to you about how to set up a schedule for your homeschool days. Now, if you'd like to check out the other videos that I have in this Homeschool 101 series, I will fly a card up the top here that links to the playlist where all of those videos are gathered, and I will pop links in the description box as well, so make sure you check out those other videos in this series. Now, it's important to remember when you're setting up a schedule for your family for your homeschool days to remember that homeschool is not school at home. Your days do not have to look like what it does at school. You do not have to be learning all day. You do not have to be doing every subject every day or even every week. Your space that you're homeschooling in your home doesn't have to look like a classroom. It can be at your kitchen table. It could even be outdoors. So remember, when you're setting up your schedule, it doesn't have to look like what the school system looks like. This is your homeschool, and it should flow in the way that your family flows and looks unique to you. So don't try and set up your schedule like a school does. It just won't work, and it won't be enjoyable for you either. Now, I suggest that you do your bookwork when your children are at their best. Now, what I mean when I talk about bookwork is the portion of your homeschool where you're doing your writing, doing math, things where you actually have to get out pen and paper, write things down, and that they really need to concentrate. And I recommend doing that when your children are at their best. And as your children get used to homeschooling or get older, that window of time absolutely changes, and you'll have to go with the flow. Now, let me just explain what I mean by that. So when I first started homeschooling my children for nearly 5 years ago now, I had 2 little children that weren't in school and that were still taking naps. So I had a toddler in the house, and trying to do bookwork with a toddler or a baby is really difficult. So what I used to do is I would save all of that like bookwork and the math work for when my toddler was actually taking a nap. And at that stage, he was taking a nap in the afternoon. So our mornings were full of all the fun things. In the summer, we would go to the beach, we would go swimming, we might do some cooking, some reading, some watching videos, playing board games, all the fun stuff you kind of do as a homeschooler. And then when I put my little boy down for a nap in the afternoon, for my older children, that's when we got out the workbooks, the writing, the maths, and we did that in the time that my son was having a nap. Now, as my children got older and my toddler got older and he was no longer taking naps anymore, he was just awake all the time, then the schedule looked a little bit different. Then I started doing my bookwork first thing in the morning, which is what I still do now 4 years later, because that's when my children are at their brightest. And so we try and get our bookwork done first thing in the morning and then save the afternoon for the outings and watching videos, reading, cooking, and all the other fun stuff. And I would get my bookwork done when they're at the best, which for my family was first thing in the morning. So as I said, your children are all really different, but it's just a good idea to have a look at what's best for them and do your bookwork at that time. It also might be that your children can't do a whole chunk of their bookwork together. It's just too much for them. So you might actually break it up over the day so that they will be able to complete it a little bit better. But just really look at how your children learn best when they're at their best, and try and get all that important stuff done when they're at their best. You don't have to do schoolwork every day. So here in the Lake House Homeschool, we only do schoolwork 4 days a week. And on the 5th day, we have a family day. So that's our outing day, our excursion day. We'll go out and do fun things as a family. It might be simple things like just going to the beach or taking the boat out, or staying home and playing board games together, or having a movie day. And sometimes we'll head out, we'll head to the museum, we'll go to SciTech, and do all of those kind of things. So in terms of bookwork, we only do bookwork 4 days a week, and the 5th day is a family day off. So don't feel like you have to do homeschool or bookwork every single day of the week. It can definitely be flexible. You don't have to do homeschool work all day long. As I said before, it doesn't have to look like a classroom at home, so you don't have to do schoolwork all day, every day. If you've got younger children, you might only do, say, 1 hour to 1.5 hours of book work a day, and then for upper primary, you might do 2 to 3 hours a day, and then for high school, you might do more. There is, I know here in Western Australia, there's no actual requirement for how many hours that you do a day. They're just interested in you showing the progress of the learning over the year, but they're not actually going to tell you how many hours you need to take every day. And so usually for me in our house, we will do school for like 2 to 3 hours. And if my children don't get their finished work in that time, that doesn't matter. We just stop and we roll over into the next day and just finish then. I don't try and keep working until something's finished. I usually work to time instead. And then if we've reached that time limit, we'll just stop and pick up where we left off the next day. So I'm pretty flexible in that way. So I know there is some information out there about rough guidelines about how many hours you is a good idea to homeschool your children, and I will leave a link to that information in the description box down below if you're interested in having a look at that. But you can definitely work out what is the best for your children in how many hours you're going to do each day. Another good recommendation for lessons, especially for younger children, is just do 20-minute lessons. I know when my children were a lot longer, that's what I used to do. I would just work on something for 20 minutes and then I would stop and I would move on to something else or take a break. And so we would just get short, sharp lessons. I would get the best out of them in that 20 minutes and then we would kind of move on to the next thing. Now that my children are older, my older children can definitely do longer than 20 minutes. But I know my youngest, he gets distracted really easily and I don't get the best out of him after 20 minutes. So we kind of just stick to 20-minute blocks. So that's another helpful hint as well when you're setting up your schedule. Now, you don't have to write out a formal schedule to show your moderator. If you want to, of course you can. But I know for me, I write out a schedule just for me personally. So I'll write out a schedule just really to make sure that I can fit in all the things that I want to do. And I might see, actually, I've really overestimated what I can fit in. And so I'm going to have to drop a few of the things that I want to do or put them off until another time. And so I just find it really helpful to write out a schedule for myself. So what I will do is I'll actually turn this camera around and I will show you what my schedule looks like for us here in the Lake House Homeschool. So here's a look at my homeschool timetable. I've printed it out for you, and as you can see, it's got lines in it. That is just because my printer the header needs cleaning, but just in the interest of saving ink and paper, I'm actually not going to reprint it. So please excuse these yellow lines. I will put a free downloadable copy of this timetable onto my blog if you would like to check that out and download that and use for yourself. It won't have those lines in, but I just can't bring myself to waste more ink or paper to print it out again. So I'm just going to go with this. But when you see it online and print it out, it won't have these vertical lines in your page. I hope that makes sense. All right, so let's have a closer look. Now, as I said, I do a 4-day homeschool week here in our house because we do family day and we do it on a Monday. Well, I've just changed it this year. Last year we actually had family day on a Wednesday, which was super good because we did 2 days, a day off, and then 2 days for homeschool. But we coincide our family day with my husband's day off work, which is switched back to a Monday. So we don't do homeschool work on a Monday. We take a family day on a Monday, and on that Monday we will just do fun stuff as a family, or we'll go and do excursions on that day, like going to the museum or to SciTech, or just other random fun things like going to the beach, taking the boat out, playing board games, going to the movies, having a movie day. You get the gist. So that's what happens on a Monday. Then on a Tuesday, now I've just I kind of wrote down start times, but My homeschool days are super flexible. If we don't end up starting homeschool at 9 o'clock like I've got written down, we just go with the flow. And that's what I love about homeschooling. We don't have to stick to the schedule. So this is just a rough guide about what we do. On a Tuesday in the mornings, we actually go on a homeschool group outing, and we're usually out all morning from 9 o'clock till about lunchtime. So that's on a Tuesday morning. Then we come home, we have lunch, and after lunch, then we get into our schoolwork. And because we've been out in the morning, we usually just complete a little bit of schoolwork. We don't do a full day. So here in our house, we use Gather Round Homeschool, which is actually a unit study. So a unit study is all of the subjects, bar math, in one book. And so I don't have listed here, we do science on this day, we do history on this day, we do geography on this day. The unit study actually covers all of the learning areas. And so after lunch on a Tuesday, we get out our Gather Round Homeschool unit study. And then I just broke that down even further for you. So in that unit study, first thing that we do is I read aloud to the children, and that usually takes 10 minutes. Depends if we go down any rabbit trails, but reading aloud for 10 minutes. Then we watch videos after that on the subject, around 30 minutes worth. Sometimes it can be longer, sometimes it can be shorter, depending how many videos go with that day's lesson. And then after we've watched the videos, the children complete their own notebooks. And so that will take anywhere from 30 minutes up. And that's all they do for school on a Tuesday because we've been out. And then I just have Jack. So this is for my 3 older children, and then Jack is doing something slightly different because he's a little bit younger. He's using the Ready to Read program from Gather Round Homeschool. And so while I'm reading aloud to the children and they're watching their videos, Jackson will actually be doing reading eggs and math seeds. And then when it comes to completing the notebooks, we all sit down at the table together. And so I'm able to help all of my children at the same time. So while we're sitting down at the table and the children are completing their notebooks, then I will read aloud to Jack from his Ready to Read program for 10 minutes. He will watch videos and I will help him complete his notebook, which only takes about 15 minutes. And so that's how I kind of work teaching multiple children at a time, that all my 3 older children are all doing the same unit study. We do all of this together, and then they complete their own notebooks. And so we all sit at the table together because my 2 older children can work independently. But if we're at the table and they need to ask me a quick question, I'm right there. And then I have Cruz on one side of me, Jackson on the other, and I help them at the same time. I've got some day in the life videos about how I go about homeschooling. I'll fly a card at the top of the video. If you want to check out those videos, you can see kind of how we manage our day here in the lake house. All right, so on a Wednesday and a Thursday we're at home, so we tend to do more work on these 2 days. So usually I like to start school around 9 o'clock. I just find that that's a good time for me to get up, have a slow morning, and be ready to start our day at 9 o'clock. And so on a Wednesday morning we do our Gather Round unit study once again. We start at 9 o'clock. We read aloud for 10 minutes. We watch 30 minutes of videos, and while I'm doing that, Jackson is doing reading eggs and math scenes again. At 10:30 we stop for a break and we have morning tea, usually till 11 o'clock. Then at 11 o'clock we come back to the homeschool table and we get out our Gather Round Homeschool notebooks to work on those, and that usually takes about 30 minutes. And then I throw in some extra spelling, reading and writing practice, and those extra things usually take about 30 minutes as well. So it's usually about an hour of book work. Then we break for lunch at 12 and have a rest, and then say 1 o'clock thereabouts, or later, depends how lazy we're feeling, we do math. And so we all kind of do math at the same time after lunch, and that's all we do on a Wednesday. And then our afternoons are free. So in the summertime we might go to the playground or go to the beach. We might have a day at home. We might, the kids usually have some technology time. They'll play Minecraft. We'll get board games out. I'll use that time to do
housework or all the things I need to do. So that's what it kind of looks like in the afternoon. And Thursday is pretty much exactly the same as Wednesday. And then on Friday, I hope you can see that, maybe I'll just bring it a little bit closer. On Friday, we don't do our gather round unit study. This is where I take the time to do Australian studies. So we do Australian history and Australian geography. I will just read aloud for 10 minutes and do a notebooking page, which is about 15 minutes. Then we do geography, which is the same thing. We do Bible study, which takes about 20 minutes, and math for about 40 minutes. And then at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we head out to spend some time with another homeschool co-op group that we hang out with. Now, when it comes, I've got different age children, so this schedule is for all of my children. You can see I've got Jackson's notes down here because his work is a little bit different. But I also have my son who's 14, nearly 15, and so when it says here that we will do 40 minutes of math, his is actually nearly double that amount. He'll do an hour and a half worth of maths, and his writing might take a little bit longer as well in this section here. So for my year one, I've got Jackson who's going into year one this year, and Cruz is going into year 3. They will obviously do less than my teenager. He will do a little bit more. But again, I haven't really written in here. It's just kind of, we just know that that's what we're doing. Again, I write this schedule out really just for myself. I don't show my moderator. I just write this out just to make sure that I can fit in all of the things that we are planning on doing this homeschool year. Sometimes I'm a little over ambitious and I have other things that I want to do, and I look at my schedule, I'm like, oh, I just can't do it this term. Maybe I'll switch something out and do it next term. And so that's kind of why I write out a schedule. And it's also just really important to remember that my schedule is actually super flexible. I know sometimes in the summer we might do less work in our days because we will actually be going to the beach. Usually we go to the beach every morning. So we might be spending all of our mornings at the beach, and we don't start our homeschool work until the afternoon section. And so we'll be, having fun time in the morning and then kind of doing our homeschool work when it's too hot to be outside. And then in the winter time, we're home more often. So we might get more work done in the winter time than we would in the summertime. But that's the beauty of homeschool and being flexible. And I absolutely love that.
Thank you so much for watching my video today. I hope that you found all of that information helpful. If you have any questions at all, just leave a comment in the comments box down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And don't forget to check out the other videos in this Homeschool 101 playlist. I will leave a link to that playlist in the description box down below for you. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.